belong together. Peanut butter and jelly, SpongeBob and Patrick, but some things have to stay apart. And today, those two things are the New York Jets and Robert Saleh. This and plenty more on No Buts About It.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to No Buts About It. We have Chus in his basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm in a dining room in Indiana, and it appears, and I don't know for sure, but it looks like Stan the Jet fan, our traveling correspondent, is in a hotel room in Columbus, Ohio. So we've got a lot to talk about here with the New York Jets. They've been in the media a lot here. First of all, that intro, though, was amazing. And the timing, all of that, it's almost like I'm a producer in real life for a job. So, first of all, Stan, I don't know what you want to talk about first here with the New York Jets. I'll let you pick because you guys have been all over the news. Obviously, the big news today is Robert Saleh, but we can go whichever way you want.
So this is going to sound false, but I promise this is true. I woke up at like 4 a.m. this morning, left my house 4:35 in that range, had to get on a train to get on another train to get on another train to get to the airport. Left my flight, left at like 8:30, and I was up that entire time, super early, super kind of dazed all day. But when I was on the train going through New York City, right, I was seeing Queens, I was seeing Manhattan, I was looking at the beauty around me. Arrived in Grand Central Terminal, the most iconic terminal in the world, looked at the ceiling, saw the paintings of the constellations, and I thought, this city is so awesome. But my favorite football team is not awesome. And I thought more and more about that. Like every team from New York is so iconic. You have you have the Giants, right? So many victories, so many trophies, so many iconic players, right? You have the Yankees, but for some reason the New York Jets just can't make anything work. And it goes on this thought I've been having over the course of the last week or two, something I discussed, I know, with you, Josh, which is that my worry with the Jets right now is that keeping Robert Saleh too long would take away all that we have going for us, because we do have a good roster, right? Something is going wrong, obviously, and we'll get into that soon. But we have a good roster, and somehow we are not playing well, right? The last two games we should have won, and we lost them. Pretty bad losses, too. So I think Robert Saleh getting fired, as much as I was a fan of Robert Saleh over the course of the last few years, right? It was only really that Black Friday game with the multiple pick sixes and all that I began to go against Robert Saleh. And going into this season, my mentality was, we have Aaron Rodgers, we have a much better O-line, we have much better threats. We should be good with Robert Saleh. And I thought Robert Saleh can take us into the playoffs. And my thinking was, if we get into the playoffs with Robert Saleh, which we haven't done in so long, I think he should stay. But after seeing the last couple of weeks, and really his attitude over the last few years, it's felt to me like this had to have happened. I didn't think it was going to, because I think Woody Johnson and the Jets ownership can be a little bit late to getting things done. But I applaud them for getting this done early rather than waiting for the last minute.
So you mentioned that you were kind of like, you've been a fan of Robert Saleh in the past. You've definitely had your critiques of him, but were you surprised at all that they did this now? I know you said it is probably necessary and that Woody Johnson, something that shocked me was this is the first time in the Woody Johnson era of New York Jets football that you guys have switched coaches in the middle of the season. So did it shock you at all to be like, right now, this is the time?
Oh, 100%. And really, the reason I was so upset going into really after the last two games was because I thought we had all of this going for us, and we were going to let a bad coach who has not been a good leader. Let's be frank, at least recently in memory, and hasn't been able to be a good leader on or off the field. To be clear, I thought we were going to let that stop us from getting anything accomplished. And I'm really happy that Woody Johnson, got himself together and got rid of Robert Saleh. And I do like Saleh. I think Saleh's going to be a great defensive coordinator somewhere in the NFL, but I just don't think he's a head coach. And at the end of the day, I was happy enough with just getting into the playoffs this season. That's all I really wanted. But now even that doesn't look to be very realistic. I think the odds right now are something like 20-30%. So if this decision was going to be going to happen this season, I am so happy it happened right now rather than waiting 4 more weeks into the year when we have a 5-game losing streak or a bigger hole to climb get out of.
Chus, you have a question?
What? No,
I thought you were.
Oh, you thought I raised my hand? No, I mean, if anything, it kind of reminds me of like Arthur Smith when it goes to the head coach conversation, just because like Arthur Smith was not able to coach that Atlanta Falcons team. He just did things so weird and different down in Atlanta that obviously it appears that they may be fixing now. I mean, they're still not in the perfect spot that I would say for Atlanta's liking, but I think some head coaches and some coaches in the NFL just learn that they're just better as coordinators. And it's just how it is. I mean, I know you make the big bucks when you're a coach, but sometimes you kind of have to just accept the fact that your coordinating is where you are an expert in. And unfortunately, luckily, the Jets figured that out a little sooner than later, as you mentioned, Stan, because there's still not. I mean, I know you said that there's only like a 30-40% chance of playoffs, maybe even lower than that. I still don't think that your chances are completely shot. So I wouldn't give up hope yet, especially for any other Jets fans out there that are listening in. I'd keep the hope alive.
And it's not like the New York Jets have been awful. Like they on offense. What's weird is Robert Saleh is a defensive coach, and the defense, if anything, was the strength of the Jets. So there's this rumor going around that I've seen that CBS posted that Robert Saleh was getting ready to fire Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator for the Jets, which I think you would have been a fan of that move. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett have some connections, so who knows how that would have gone with Aaron. But then all of a sudden, Woody Johnson is like, no, you're out. So now, and I don't think this will happen, but Nathaniel Hackett is listed as a potential future head coach of the New York Jets, which I don't think Stan wants at all. Currently, the interim head coach is your defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich. So, I mean, you've got something to work with here. But, Stan, what are your thoughts on the idea, if this rumor is true, that Nathaniel Hackett was potentially on his way out, and now Robert Saleh is the one who saw the door, escorted out by security, by the way?
Yeah, my biggest issue with Saleh outside of his in-game decisions has been his ability to blame someone for everything and never take responsibility. So, for example, I think it was like his first, or the season of Zach Wilson, right? Zach Wilson's second season, we had LaFleur as the OC, and LaFleur was actually doing a great job. If anyone, I mean, I know you were watching the Jets shots that year, and LaFleur was calling up good plays. He was using our receivers very well, right? He was making the best out of the receivers we had. We didn't have very good receivers. And you look at LaFleur now, he's doing great things, right? But for some reason, Saleh put all the blame on LaFleur, got rid of him, and then brought in Nathaniel Hackett as the solution to that of all the possible people to bring in. And then every season, if you look at Robert Saleh, there's just always this big amount of scapegoating. He always blames someone else. So the Hackett thing makes sense. I mean, as you mentioned, I'm fine with Hackett being gone. I don't want Hackett to be with the Jets. For me, though, if Hackett is somehow able to bring the best out of Rodgers, which that is allegedly what's going on, then I'm happy with it. But we still need some sort of play caller. Obviously, Ulbrich is not going to be the play caller. We know he's not the play caller. Saleh was barely the play caller. So I don't know what the plan is on offense there. That's my biggest worry moving forward. But at the very least, it gives the team, like the players, a bit of a chance to kind of reassess. And since we're so early into the season, that gives us something to build off of. And that was another thing with Saleh. I think every single loss he's had this season, the first excuse he gives, if you look at his press conferences, is, "Oh, well, we're so early in the season. It really doesn't matter." I'm like, we have plenty of time to turn this around. Well, yeah, Robert Saleh, we did turn it around, and we got rid of you. But no, I mean, I think it is important for the team to try to turn things around right now, as Saleh has been pointing out after every loss. But I just think the scapegoating and the inability to take responsibility made Saleh a bit of a liability in terms of leadership. And it made the players, if you were a player on that team, imagine how that makes you feel, right? Saleh even blamed Rodgers in like 2 or 3 of the press conferences. I think he was direct in 2 of those at least. He directly blamed Rodgers, your Hall of Fame quarterback, for the losses. So there's definitely a bit of a scapegoating issue there. And as I just said, it doesn't help the locker room. It doesn't help the team at all.
So I want to clarify this because this is crazy to me if true. Robert Saleh was your offensive play caller?
I actually don't know who's been play calling through the most recent parts of the season, but at times of last season and early this season, Saleh has been the play caller.
That's crazy to me because he's a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah, Saleh was. It was, if you remember the Black Friday game from last year. After that, Saleh has been at least allegedly being the primary play caller. This offseason, Saleh's big thing was having a big part of the offense. He was bragging about being in every meeting for the offensive staff. So allegedly he's trying to say he's able to work an offense now. Obviously, that hasn't really happened last year or this year, regardless of where he is on that spectrum of play calling, but it's not working.
I mean, obviously, your like offense and defense, you need to understand both to be a good coach, but that's insane to me that he was calling the offense. What was Nathaniel Hackett doing then, other than like making plays for Aaron Rodgers to audible out of?
Cheerleader. He's a cheerleader.
Well, someone has to like tell the water boys where to go, and then Hackett's doing a great job of that. I think our water boys have been on top of their game this year.
Yeah, I feel like most of your players have been very hydrated, and I think that's always really good for a NFL team to thrive, especially under the
very
warm
hydrated.
conditions. Yeah, they've been very hydrated.
There was actually while the Minnesota Vikings game, the water boys went on to the field too early.
Oh, okay, all right, then their grade, their PFF grade goes down a couple. Yeah. I'm disappointed in those water boys.
It wasn't well played, but they thought there was a timeout where there was no timeout.
Oh,
it's Nathaniel Hackett's fault specifically.
Yeah, but I think if I could guide this conversation, I think the last question we need to answer is who is the next head coach of the New York Jets? I have a take. Do you guys have anything about that?
I've been seeing some people saying return of Bill Belichick.
Yeah, Billy B. I don't really have an opinion right now. I mean, it's just always crazy just because like right in the middle of the season like this, especially going into like a week 6, you're always kind of like, well, we don't even know what coaches are available or what coordinators are available or who's still even out there. But so I don't really have an opinion at this moment, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say, Stan, especially like, since you're very deeply rooted into the Jets. And probably would have strong feelings towards one candidate and maybe a strong dislike towards another. So what do you think, Stan? Who are you thinking?
Well, I mean, for one, I think the idea of a guy like Belichick makes sense because we need someone established. I think just to be able to bring this team together at this point in the season, you need someone who's been around the NFL. Now, Belichick, I don't think he's going to join the Jets. I just don't see that happening. I assume he's still friends with every single person in the Patriots staff. So I would find that kind of weird if that did happen. But if Belichick came, I would be supportive of that. I really just want someone who's had experience, especially on the offensive side of things. Belichick is obviously not a very offensive coach, but he would understand it better than I think anyone on our staff right now. But here's my take. Here's who I'm pointing at, right? Who is a not working for any or not a coach for any team right now. Hall of Fame head coach could come to the Jets. Has been with the Jets before. Any names ringing? Any names come to mind?
Bill Belichick.
Pete Carroll. That's
I thought it was Pete Carroll. I thought.
You mean you? He's teaching at USC right now.
Well, how do you have that up already?
I'm good, man. I'm a good producer.
I don't think I've texted you anything about Pete Carroll, but I mean, moving on that point, here's why Pete Carroll might be the best candidate for the Jets right now, because he is a defensive head coach, and I think that leaves a little bit of continuity. Right, allows because our best players are on defense, so he would understand how to use them well. But also, his systems are very similar to what the Jets have run defensively. He's always had good pressure rates, which is something the Jets need to bring up and need to improve at this point of the season. Especially with the amount of injuries we've had on the D-line. But I think what Pete Carroll does most of all is, even though he was, again, another defensive head coach, right? He was, and while he wasn't the play caller for Seattle, according to everything he's talked about, especially after the Marshawn Lynch play, he did say he was, to some extent, responsible for every single play on offense. And he said at times he did give direct recommendations or direct orders to the play callers to do X, Y, and Z, to pull this type of play, this type of set. And while, yeah, he may not be able to call the exact play for the Jets, I think there could be a system where he could say, okay, well, we need this sort of attack, and he and Rodgers can work it out there. So I think Pete Carroll makes a lot of sense to me. Pete Carroll, the other thing is, obviously he knows how to get into the playoffs, right? And he knows how to win in the playoffs too, of course. He knows how to win a Super Bowl as well. But he also knows how to get into the playoffs. He knows how to get through those grueling mid-season games, where you have 4, 5, 10 injuries. And the Jets are a team that have never been good at that, at least not since Rex Ryan. So I think Pete Carroll brings, a lot of – he's going to be a very well-respected guy in the locker room from day one. And because of his experience, I think he could be someone who could bring us into the playoffs and give us some sort of push. And one final thought on that is, I don't know whether Pete Carroll has any interest in coming to the Jets, but I would think because of how much time he's been a head coach and now stepping away from it, I think the idea of leading a team through the end of a season without any sort of long-term commitment might be attractive to him, because he's not saying, oh, I'm going to be your head coach for 2-3 years. I think there could be a situation where Pete Carroll says, I'll coach you through this season, and at the once we get out in the wild card round or whatever the end of the season looks like, we'll figure out what the future is.
Yeah, I think you bring up a lot of good points. Plus, I mean, obviously Pete Carroll's older, and that could be a reason he didn't want to go through like a rebuild with the Seahawks. But Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be with the Jets long term either. Before we move on to this next conversation, just in the name of fairness, I found this photoshopped photo of Bill Belichick with the Jets here. So since it's not really Photoshopped, this is just a really old photo.
I was going to say this is definitely just like a photo from like the early 2000s.
Yeah, no. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I had that Pete Carroll photo pulled up already.
That really cracked me up. Stan, you were actually stunned by that. It was just your reaction to it was just, you're just like, how do you have that already on file? Like, how do you already have that uploaded up there? It was just really funny. But yeah, no, with Pete Carroll, I think that could be a good move. I think both could be interesting. Bill Belichick or Pete Carroll. As you said, Stan, I think it probably would make more sense. But it would always be slightly interesting. Would Bill Belichick be willing to just join the Jets and just turn his back on New England and everything? I mean, I just think that would be really interesting. You join a division rival, just be very, very fascinating.
New England turned their back on him,
so he's going to do it to them. I just think that'd be really funny because, listen, when Tom Brady obviously left Tampa Bay. Or not Tampa Bay, when he left New England to go to Tampa Bay, there wasn't really that much of there was obviously anger, but it wasn't like he left and went and joined, the Miami Dolphins. He joined somebody that was in the NFC that, although, yes, I think they did play the Patriots once during that tenure. It's still, it didn't impact as much. I just feel like, I just wonder, since if Bill Belichick was the coach for 2 seasons or whatever, I wonder how New England fans would take that, especially with all the struggles that are going on over there. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. But Stan, I've talked to Chus about this because the Steelers are a candidate, if you will, along with the Saints and Derek Carr is now out for multiple weeks, so we'll see if that continues. But there's a guy, lots of talk going on about him. This man right here, Davante Adams. He wants to trade. He wanted to play with his buddy Derek Carr in Las Vegas, and then that didn't work out. And now he wants out. Could he also be reunited with a former quarterback of his, Aaron Rodgers, in New York? Do you want that? First of all, is that a desire you have?
I mean, who doesn't want Davante Adams, right? I mean, yeah, he is old, and he's not going to be as good as he was back then with Green Bay and Rodgers and that connection. That being said, he's Davante Adams, right? He was an All-Pro. Like he's a very, very good wide receiver, and it's kind of hard to find those right now in the NFL, right? There's not that many receivers who are really impressing so far in this season. So that to me is a A-plus move. The other thing is we've seen this offense struggle when it relies too much on Garrett Wilson. Basically every bad game we've had this season, you can blame a lot of it to way too many targets to Garrett Wilson and not enough of the other players picking up the slack. I mean, you saw Lazard. I thought Lazard was doing well this season, right? He wasn't dropping that many balls compared to last season. And after last game, now he's leading the NFL in drop balls, right? So we need a consistent number 2 option. And while Mike Williams, I've liked him a lot so far. He's been very good. He is not a number 2 option right now. But you know who will be a great number 2 option? Garrett Wilson. Because if Davante Adams comes to the Jets, he's going to be number 1. He's going to get all the targets. He's going to have all of the correct plays with Aaron Rodgers. We know they know how to communicate with each other. We've seen them do that for years in Green Bay. We've seen them both at their peaks together. So Davante Adams comes to the Jets, becomes wide receiver 1, takes a bit of the pressure off Garrett Wilson. And for any defense that plays us, now you have to worry about one of those two, which, either way, whichever one you pick, you're going to lose the other one, right? So I think Davante Adams is a genius move. And even if we do have to bite a lot of the cap, which, the Raiders either want a second-round pick or they want a team that's willing to take a lot of the cap hit. Well, guess what? Because of a guy named Hassan Reddick not signing with the Jets, we have about $16 million left in cap that we don't have filled right now. And you know what? You can restructure a contract, and you can take the dead money from Las Vegas and say, hey, Vegas, we'll give you a 3rd or 4th or 5th or whatever, some later round picks, and we'll take all the dead money. And that's a win-win for both teams, right? Because Vegas, they're not so much worried about rebuilding right now. They're not making a playoff push. So that dead cap, they're just trying to get rid of it so they can get new guys in next year. So I think that's a great situation for both teams. The big question to me is how much do the Raiders want a second-round pick? Because I don't think there's an NFL team right now that's going to give a second-round pick.
Would you give a second-round pick?
No. So the Raiders, to my understanding, have made it clear they want a second, or they want a lot of cap relief, which I think the Jets have their best bet to just give that cap relief.
Chus, speaking on behalf of the Steelers and your Pittsburgh connections, would you guys give a second-round pick for Davante Adams?
No, I wouldn't, personally. I don't think. There's so much that goes into it, obviously. Second is definitely steep, but there's been players that are the same level of Davante Adams talent that have been traded for way less. So I feel like it's a little ridiculous to even consider that. But I understand what Vegas is trying to do. But unfortunately, come the deadline, they're going to realize that if they want to dump Davante Adams, they're not going to be able to get a second-round pick for him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And there's obviously the concerns with his age. How long is Davante Adams going to be, Davante Adams that we know? Is he going to become? Obviously, Mike Williams was never the same level of Davante Adams, but is he going to become like Mike Williams, where he's not even like a wide receiver 2 anymore? He's just kind of a low-end wide receiver 3, in my opinion, and maybe Stan has a higher opinion of Mike Williams than that. But
you could even compare him like a DeAndre Hopkins right now. I don't think necessarily D-Hop's bad, but he's not getting anywhere close to the targets that he was getting, 5-6 years ago in Houston or whatnot. Looking like at his stat line, he's getting like maybe if he's lucky 3 or 4 targets a game. I mean, against Green Bay, he had like 7, I think. But like in that Chicago, against the Jets, even he had like 2 targets. And so like he's not the same receiver. And I mean, I don't remember how much they gave up for him. I don't remember if that was, Josh, do you remember if it was a free agent signing or if it was a trade? I don't remember. It's been a couple
I
years
can't
now.
remember. It's been a while.
But like if it was a trade, I know that they didn't take that much for him. And if it was a salary thing, I mean, at that point, I mean, you could compare that to you could compare that to even Adams signing in the offseason with somebody such as even the Jets at that point. Aaron Rodgers decides to do his final season, and or I don't know how do you know when Aaron Rodgers is looking to retire? Has he kind of hinted at that yet, Stan?
It seems like he wants to play next season, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a rougher season if he just hangs his boots up this year.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. I mean, it's possible though. I mean, it's possible. I just don't know. I would like to believe that he'll play one more after this, but obviously, like you said, it might be just too much for him. I mean, he's in his late 30s. I mean, getting up there in age. You're about to push 40.
He wasn't getting hit a lot. He wasn't having very physical games early in the season, but since Morgan Moses got injured, he's been getting smacked every other play. Like it's very rough on him. And I think he's been injured the last 2 games. So both leg injuries, both after a lot of hard hits. So I would not be surprised if it becomes a health situation where if Morgan Moses doesn't come back or isn't the same, the O-line doesn't return to where it should be, that he has to make a decision for his own health.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins, but I'm just thinking about some other receivers who just have fallen off. Julio Jones.
Oh, is he even in the NFL anymore? I think he's out.
He's struggling to make it on practice squads.
I mean, that happens.
I mean, I don't think Davante Adams is anywhere near that point, but I mean, like giving up a 2nd round pick for a guy who in 2 years might struggle to make it on the team. I mean, wide receivers can fall off like that, especially as they get older. So it will be interesting to kind of follow this and see where he ends up.
Honestly, I think Cleveland should do it. I think Cleveland would really benefit from it because, I mean, after all, they already have so many wide receivers and they clearly don't care about building their team up. So they might as well just trade pick. I mean, I'm just saying.
They are about to lose Amari Cooper. So, I mean,
I mean, yeah, there you go. And
they're still waiting.
And Watson will probably get arrested by the end of the season. But
still waiting on that Deshaun Watson breakout game that's been coming for like 3 years or whatever. But
yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Yeah.
But Stan, if you don't have any further thoughts on that, I have thoughts about the Cincinnati Bengals. And we've been talking about this we got a little texting group chat.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe it. In the words of my mother, that man needs a hug. And that was what she said when they showed Joe Burrow on the screen after Money Mac McPherson missed the field goal. Which, you know what? Everyone wants to put the blame of the loss on Ryan Rico, our rookie punter who was holding the ball. And yes, he messed up the hold. I'm not blaming him because Zach Taylor, conservative play calling, put us in a way worse position. This man right here. Zach, buddy, I have been a defender of yours for years. I have looked at you and said, he is great for the locker room. I don't agree with everything he does, but you know what? I'm sure he has his reasons. And I don't know that I am completely on the fire Zach Taylor train yet. I was on Sunday for sure. But I think I'm like, in the old cartoons when there's a guy running late for the train and he's got an umbrella and he hooks the umbrella around like a piece of the caboose or something and he's flying behind the train. That guy is me. And I'm behind on the Zach Taylor train. Just because I don't get it. I don't know how. First of all, if I told you Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase's stats in that game, you would think, wow, the Bengals definitely won that game. If I told you Joe Burrow threw for 5 touchdowns, almost 400 yards, Jamar Chase had 2 touchdowns and almost 200 yards, you would think there's no way the Bengals lost that game, right?
Oh yeah. I didn't know if you were like. I thought you were just ranting. I mean, if you were asking me, yeah, I'd probably think that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Stan.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, they lost. They lost the game. And Joe Burrow threw an interception. Yes, people keep going back to that. People keep saying, well, Joe Burrow threw an interception. Okay. Lamar Jackson fumbled and gave you guys. Lamar Jackson not only fumbled, he fumbled in overtime and handed the Bengals the win. And I get you don't want to turn over the ball, but why in overtime are you not throwing it when Jamar Chase is lined up one-on-one with Nate Wiggins, who is a rookie, albeit a first-round rookie, but a rookie, who had been lined up against Jamar during the game before and Jamar had beaten? Why don't you even give them a chance? They didn't even take a shot. At least take a shot at the end zone and throw it where, only Jamar can get it. Draw something up like that. They didn't even take a shot. They ran 3 run plays, which they said Joe checked into one of them. So fine. Okay, Joe checked in. You ran 2 run plays up the middle for 2 yards. What are you doing? And you settled for a 53-yard field goal. That's the annoying thing about Zach Taylor is he settles. Why can't we just go out there and beat the crap out of some teams? It's the NFL. These are all grown men. Why can't we just go out there and win by 40? Why is Joe Burrow is currently on pace for, I believe, just under 5,000 yards, just under 50 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions on the season. Joe is going to put up MVP numbers, and no one is going to be paying attention because this team is going to be 5-12 with a last place schedule. So here's what the Cincinnati Bengals need to do, in my opinion. They need to sit down Zach Taylor, and they need to say, look, you have the next few weeks to figure this out, because now there is nothing holding them back from firing him, because the Jets just fired Robert Saleh. The Bengals aren't going to be the first team to fire a head coach now. So they could sit down Zach Taylor and say, look, the Jets just did it, and we'll do it too. And you know what? I know that he's been in head coaching discussions in the past, and I've been a huge fan of his. I don't know if he's been carried by the talent or what, but Lou Anarumo, I don't know what's happened to him, but this defense is atrocious. This defense is not good. 38 points should be enough to win an NFL game. How many weeks are teams consistently putting up more than 30 points? Not a lot.
No, not a lot. No, I mean there isn't. There isn't. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say.
And I know. I'm mad. I've been thinking about this a lot. And now, you know what? And Stan, you can let me know what you think about this. There's a defensive coordinator available now named Robert Saleh. Who
do you think it's the defense? Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be the defense. I mean,
yeah.
100% is the defense. I mean, the offense can only the offense. I feel like your team can only do so much. I mean, I don't know. Your team's just your team's got a whole other situation of messes, and because I have so much to talk about with the Steelers at this point too, that whenever you bring up the Bengals, I'm like, dang, that's another team out there that just has some issues that they haven't really figured out entirely yet.
I'll give them the D-line injuries, and the D-line did look better against the Ravens a little bit, but I think we're the 31st worst defense in the league with the 5th best scoring offense. So the one pro I'll give Zach Taylor is his side of the ball is the offensive side of the ball. So his offense is working. It's just his play calling is so stupid and so annoying. So maybe you keep Zach Taylor around. And they've said in the past the play calling is a committee. It's the quarterback coach, who I can't remember the name of right now, offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher, who used to be the quarterback coach, and then Zach Taylor, which to me would be super confusing. That seems like it would be too many cooks in the kitchen. I think Zach got to give up play calling. Just let Dan Pitcher have it, or bring in someone who can do it. Give Joe more control. Get rid of Lou Anarumo. And I hope Lou finds a job somewhere else, because I do think he can be a good coach. But at this point, the personnel that the Bengals have and the other teams in the division have figured out Lou's defense. So I just think you have to bring in something else, something fresh. And, if it doesn't get turned around by the end of this season, then Zach might have to go too. Because you cannot have your franchise quarterback saying in his interviews, this is not a championship team. We're not going to win anything like this. While the head coach is going, I still believe we can win a championship. You can't be having that. You've got Jamar and T are both complaining about the team not being aggressive enough in the locker room. Zach is losing the locker room, so something needs to change.
I have a couple of things just I wanted to throw at you.
Yeah.
So do you think that a mid-season firing will help you or hurt you? Because I think in Stan's situation with the Jets, I think that it will probably help. But I don't know entirely if firing Zach Taylor would help. But do you think that firing him in a week or two? I mean, I know that sounds sudden, but let's say you do fire him mid-season, right before the trade deadline. Do you think that would help the problems, or do you think that whoever the interim head coach is would lose the locker room more? Would you lose out on players?
I don't think we'd lose out on any players that we weren't going to lose out on already. People might point to T, but I think we're going to lose T anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Jamar or Joe would walk. I don't think Trey would walk. Trey and Jamar need to be extended. That's another thing. You have to, in my mind, you have to bring in a coach who is similar to what Stan is saying, championship proven. So Pete Carroll would be an example.
No.
Bill Belichick. This defense needs help. We need someone who can build the defense. Both of those coaches are defensive coaches. Or, like I said, you fire Lou Anarumo, you bring in Robert Saleh, who is a fantastic defensive coordinator in San Francisco, and you let him fix the defense, make Zach Taylor give up play calling. If Dan Pitcher can't play call, you bring in an offensive coordinator who can. I mean, it's just, you cannot be doing this when you have a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, the best offensive line that quarterback has had in his career. And now I don't know what's going on. It's just pathetic and sad. And Stan, I don't know your thoughts on the Bengals. I know you said you like Zach Taylor, but I mean
here's what it comes down to for me, right? I mean, Zach Taylor, he got you to a Super Bowl, right? He got you to the game. And it wasn't like you guys got blown out there. You held your own. That season, you were the best team in the probably one of, if not a top 2, top 3 team in the NFL. You deserve to be there, and Zach Taylor brought you there. And for that, I look back at Bengals fans every single season. I think there's at least one point in the season where there's a call for him getting fired. In fact, I think even the Super Bowl season, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the beginning of that season, wasn't there calls for Zach Taylor getting fired?
Probably.
So I think Bengals fans are a little too reactive to that. And I would say at the very least, you'd want Zach Taylor through the season. Partially because I want Pete Carroll.
Keep Pete Carroll away from Cincinnati. Keep him away from Cincinnati.
Zach Taylor, the issues with Zach Taylor are not being bad at playing at play calling, in my opinion. I think it's being too, as you said, it's not being assertive enough, right? He has all these weapons. He has to use them. If you go hunting and you never use your gun, you're not going to get a buck. So I think he has all these weapons here. Zach Taylor needs to start unleashing them. He has to start being a lot more aggressive, as you've said. So I think the issue is not so much with what Zach Taylor is doing as it is with Rob Saleh and the Jets. But I think it's more he has to do more almost. So I think if you take back, maybe you get Rob Saleh to be your defensive coordinator, but I think it really comes down to Zach Taylor just getting his play calling to be a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, and I think most Bengals fans would agree with you. And another thing is that they've done that's really weird, and I don't understand, is they will start older guys long after they've shown they shouldn't be starting anymore over young guys. Like Trenton Irwin, which I like Trenton Irwin. I think he's a decent depth guy, was starting over guys like Yoshi for a while. We haven't seen anything from Jermaine Burton hardly, but every time Jermaine Burton has gotten targeted that I can think of, it's been a big play. Jordan Battle is an even bigger example. Jordan Battle had a fantastic rookie season, and now the only reason we're seeing him from Lou Anarumo side of the ball is because Dax Hill got hurt. So, I mean, I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm hoping something changes because there is no reason why we are coming into this year off of Joe's best offseason ever, during Joe's best statistical season possibly ever, and we just can't win games. I mean, we are entering this week 3.5-point favorites to the Daniel Jones led New York Giants.
You know, I was actually going to ask about that, though, because, I mean, if you look at the schedule, though, the Giants actually haven't been that bad on paper. I mean, if you look at those final scores, I mean, the Vikings, yes, but like they've beaten or lost games within only a few points. I mean, they lost to the Commanders by 3. They beat the Giants by, 6? They lost to the Cowboys by 5, and they just beat the Seahawks without Malik Nabers. Would you be concerned going into New York on Sunday? Because it is Sunday Night Football. Malik Nabers will be back. You guys
I'm
are
very
struggling.
concerned.
I was gonna say I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, I know everyone's like quick to talk trash on the Giants, but I don't think they're that bad. I think they're bad, but I don't think they're Carolina bad. I'll put it that way. That's how I'll phrase it. I don't think they're Carolina bad.
Yeah, and say what you want about Danny Dimes, but he is playing the best football I think I've seen him play. The first week 1, no. But since then, he's been getting better, and he's been playing really well.
But, okay, you said, let me go back to what Chus said first. You said Carolina bad. We almost didn't beat Carolina. We made Carolina look good. Yeah, which, I mean, Deontay Johnson's a talented guy, but Deontay Johnson ran all over Cam Taylor-Britt.
Mm-hmm.
And Cam Taylor-Britt's like had a historical fall off these last 2 weeks. I don't know what happened to him. And then, Stan, to your point, yes, the Giants have been hot. They've been doing well. But why the Bengals, if you're going to talk about the Bengals being Super Bowl contenders, they should be able to blow this Giants team out of the water. I know Malik Nabers is super great, but you're telling me that they can't stop Devin Singletary, Wayndale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt. The only defensive player I can think of who's like a huge like star is Dexter Lawrence on the Giants. They should be able to beat them by 20 points.
Brian Burns.
Okay, I forgot they had Brian Burns. I'll be honest.
Thibodeau.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about Kayvon. We got the boys on the O-line now. The center and guard worry me a little bit, but the left and right tackles, we got them locked up as long as they stay healthy. Knocking on all the wood. But
you better knock on all the wood right there.
I'm knocking on all the wood. I'm just extremely frustrated with this team. Like I said, I'm not like saying I'm not. There are some fans saying they're going to stop going to games. until Zach Taylor's fired.
What is
I'm
that
not,
gonna-
or
that's
or
not gonna
stop
fix
watching
anything.
games until Zach Taylor's fired. I'm not in on that yet, but boy, it's getting hard. Like it's getting rough. I just would love to see us just go out and stomp a team, you know? Like, I don't care who it is. If it's the Giants, so be it. But there's no reason they should be performing the way that they are on defense, in my opinion. But we got about 15 minutes left here. So, Chus, let me know your thoughts here about the Steelers.
Oh, yes. So I didn't get a chance to really watch the game. I actually got to work it, which I will be doing a lot of those games coming up. I will be working a lot of those games, so there may be chances I don't see some of the home games, but I did not really catch too much of it. I did get cliff notes, and I heard obviously a lot about what happened. It's not a game that I really wanted to go back and look at too much just because of the ending. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues that I feel like everybody has just been talking about. Last week was very different than it was this week. Last week we were outperformed, we were outplayed, we almost made the comeback and we didn't. Okay, but Justin Fields looked great. Justin Fields didn't even look that bad this past week. I don't think he did. A lot of people are calling for Russell Wilson to start. I just don't think that's feasible. I just don't understand why you would want to put him in when Justin Fields has been doing relatively well over these last couple of weeks. Yes, he made a lot of like questionable mistakes trying to like throw it in like double coverage. And it's like, oh no, it's deflected or overthrown or oh no. But I sometimes don't think that it's Justin Fields' fault. I mean, I think, well, first of all, that drive at the end, it was a 15 play drive that resulted in a 4th and goal touchdown to Tolbert. You can't tell me that this defense that is always hyped up every single year is letting up 15 play drives when it matters most. I mean, they looked fine. I mean, they did a lot of great plays. They forced a fumble with like on the 3rd goal. So that 14th play against Dak Prescott, they fumbled it and they pushed them back to the 4-yard line. And somehow that made it worse. So I think, I don't know what has happened with the defense, but you're just really not hearing a lot about the defense more recently. I've been kind of annoyed with that. But I think also in some aspects, I'm kind of also frustrated with how the offense is right now. And I think over the last couple of years, I've kind of noticed it, and it's not something that was really brought to my attention. But one thing that I think needs to be changed, and I think it starts with Mike Tomlin. I know everyone, anytime I bring up the name Mike Tomlin, they always try to shoot me. And I'm talking to any Steelers fan that's about to comment this right now. I'm not calling for him to be fired necessarily, but I think he needs to change his ways because, man, you cannot be telling me that you are going to have Najee Harris run on 1st and 10, get 2 yards and run again. Oh, it's 3rd and 6 now, and you have a 3rd and long, and guess what? You don't complete it. And so there's the way that Arthur Smith runs his offense is very different than how all these other coordinators in the past have run their offense. Arthur Smith is not very good on the aerial. He loves his run. I've always seen that. He always likes his run offense. And the problem is Najee isn't good in this specific run offense. He just hasn't looked that good this season. Warren has been hurt. Cordell Patterson actually looked like he was one of the only competent running backs in the backfield. He got hurt as well. So the problem that I have is that, number one, I don't think you need to bring back Najee. I think you need to do different things with the running backs. I don't think you bring back Najee. And I truly believe that I think in order to win next week, I think you really got to lay into the aerial. Like, I think like George Pickens, obviously George Pickens is a whole other subject because he put on his like whatever. I don't know, like if it was like his tape under his eyes, but he put like always effing open. And he also doesn't, I don't think he realizes that he's getting almost 7 targets a game on average. And he's complaining about that, which when 2 weeks ago, no, not even 2 weeks ago, a week ago in Indianapolis, he gave half the effort and carried the ball around like it was a freaking piece of like sliced bread. And then he dropped it and it fumbled. And then the Colts recovered it and it gave us points. Like, you can't tell me, George Pickens cannot tell me that it's like, oh yeah, give him the ball. Okay, I get it. I get it. but you got to at least give some effort. And then you have Roman Wilson that's sitting on the bench right now that would be willing to give 150% effort, and instead they're putting in Van Jefferson. What are they doing? I don't get it. And like Mike Tomlin, it needs to start with him. You cannot tell me that this run game is what's going to work. You have to use both. Justin Fields showed what he can do. He threw for 301 yards passing. He ran for 45 yards. Utilize Fields. Utilize your weapons. If Najee can't get through the freaking O-line because of this run power offense, then don't use him. Use somebody else. I mean, we have options. We can bring people up from the practice squad, give somebody a chance, give Roman Wilson a chance. That's why I also don't think we should get Davante Adams, because it's just going to make things worse. People are going to complain even more. Steelers fans want everything to happen. The whole team's on fire right now. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, you look at the Steelers fans, and I know there's some out there right now. They want Tomlin to be fired. They want the Rooneys to sell the team. They want Russell Wilson to start. Some people want Kyle Allen to start. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't understand what's happening. But yeah, because he made one completion or whatever. So, I mean, there's just people that are just all over the place right now. But that's just how Steelers fans are. But for me, I'm frustrated on all different counts of everything. George Pickens, I don't also think will be a Pittsburgh Steeler past his time. I don't think that. I think he's going to try. I think they're going to try to sign him. I don't think they're going to, and I don't think he's going to want to stay, which is fine. And honestly, at this point, every single season so far that he's been in the league, he's always caused some sort of problem. And I get it that he's a good receiver, but also, in my opinion, like we had to get through the Matt Canada offense, but I think that in some cases, like some wide receivers have shown a little bit more heart when it comes to the blocking and the intensity of playing. I mean, you have these guys that are like Scotty Miller and Calvin Austin III that I feel like give more energy and more effort in the game than George Pickens does. And George Pickens doesn't have, and you watch that game, and you watch back in Dallas game, CeeDee Lamb is at least still giving 115% effort, and whether he's getting the ball or not. He gets frustrated with Dak, but obviously he still wants the better for the team. George Pickens gets frustrated with his team and then just goes dark on Instagram. It's so annoying. Like, it's getting to the point. It's like a diva mentality, and I hate it. Like, get over it, man. I know he's good, but like, I personally, I'm just like, I'm so annoyed with him. I'm so annoyed with the team and how it's run. There's just so many frustrating points with it. I'm not very concerned going into Las Vegas on Sunday. I'm not. I think we can get it figured out. But the one thing that concerns me is that if they keep it stagnant. I said it last season. I want progress from Mike Tomlin. If Mike Tomlin is seeing something that isn't working, he needs to tell his coordinators, hey, Arthur Smith, this is not working. Like, or just what, and that's not even just with the offense. Like, if the defense, something's not working, change the defensive play calling. I understand we have injuries. We do. I mean, Highsmith is hurt. Herbig might be hurt too. We've got injuries on that. You can't have TJ Watt relying on everything, but there's certain plays and different things like that where it looked bad. I mean, Peyton Wilson a couple weeks ago was getting burned. I mean, you got to work something out here. And I think, and like I said, I'm not calling for Mike Tomlin to be fired. I still think he's a good coach. I mean, eventually I don't think anybody's ever going to realize that 9 and 8 and 10, 7 seasons are never what you want from a team and for a season. But it's unfortunate just because I think that this team has a lot of potential, but they're just not doing it correctly. And I think that's all I have to say for now.
Stan, do you have any thoughts on that? Because you actually texted us Sunday night instead, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't get to watch most of this game either because of my work schedule and the fact that it went till 1 a.m. But you texted us and said that TJ Watt was your early, you actually said MVP favorite. I don't know if you meant defensive player of the year favorite, but you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, well, little disclaimer, that was very early in the game. I didn't really watch the end. I can't remember when I tuned out, but I did get very tired, and I also had to wake up early the next morning. So I don't know how much of the game I even really watched. I know I didn't watch any of the fourth for certain, but yeah, I did say TJ Watt, I think, he's having an MVP season. Now, I haven't watched every snap of his, and I haven't watched every snap of the Steelers, but whenever I've turned on the TV and I see TJ Watt there, he's doing something insane. Even when he's not getting a sack or a pressure, he's getting, obviously he's getting two guys on the O-line to cover him. They'll have the running back go and chip him. Like, the teams have to cover for him. And I think I think as far as most valuable player, right? Which player provides the most value? I think right now it might be Watt.
Okay.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I don't. I think that, like, in my opinion, I think also too, like, going back to the defense question, I think with the way that everything is orchestrated, I think that they're relying way too much on TJ Watt to get the job done, which is good because he is such a talented player. But you also need those other players to step up, because you're not going to function strongly on a defense that's only consistent of, oh, let's hope that TJ Watt gets to the quarterback. And if he doesn't, oh, shoot, I 50-50 chance that I get the ball. So I do think that he is playing really good. I mean, I think I don't know exactly what his numbers were. I think he bounced back a lot better this week from what I heard and from what I saw than he did last week against the Colts. I think he really struggled against the Colts for whatever reason. But I think that, yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree.
And for the record, I don't think he will be MVP. I think it's going to be a quarterback, of course. But if I had to pick who I thought brought the most value, I'm going with TJ Watt.
Team MVP for sure. I mean, I think even like probably a top DPOY candidate again. I mean, I am sure. I mean, I don't think Myles Garrett's probably going to be in that discussion this year just because their team is so. I don't know. Their defense would be the only thing that kind of keeps Cleveland relevant right now. So Myles Garrett might still be in that discussion. I still think Max Crosby has a good argument, but that's
Trey Hendrickson. He has caused 2 left tackles to be benched this year. He is literally the only thing that works about the Bengals defense.
I mean, he could make an argument too. I don't know what they're gonna base it off of. You know, I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, Max Crosby made Baltimore. I haven't watched a lot of Raiders football, so I'm
I
curious
get
to see
it.
how Max Crosby does.
I get it, but I hate that you have to be on a winning team, or you don't have to, but usually you're on a winning team to win these awards.
Semi-winning, at least having 7 or more wins.
Because, like, Joe Burrow's going to have an MVP. And I didn't mention this before. I should have. Lamar had a great game, too. And I say that as someone who generally thinks that Lamar's pretty over.
Oh, my God.
Lamar played amazing.
I'm sorry. I know I brought that Sam Hubbard. Like, I didn't bring this up, but, like, that Sam Hubbard play was unbelievable that he did.
Yeah.
The fact that the ball was fumbled, he picked it up, ran away. Sam Hubbard was chasing him. He stiff-armed Sam Hubbard almost out of bounds, tosses it up, throws it in for a touchdown. It was an unbelievable play by Lamar Jackson. If Chris Collinsworth would have been glazing the crap out of Lamar Jackson if he watched that happen. But then he compared him to Patrick Mahomes somehow. So they're like, that's Patrick Mahomes play if I've ever seen one. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it worked out for the best.
Some people were saying that he face masked Sam. I don't care. That was an amazing play either way. Like, if he did, that sucks. But, we should have won the game anyway. So, screw it. One thing I will say real quick before we head out. Justin Fields should continue to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers because I'm way more scared of him than I am of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson doesn't scare me at all.
And I think the thing also with that is that Justin Fields, very similarly with like a lot of these other quarterbacks in the NFL right now that are thriving, are mobile. Russell Wilson, although was mobile back in the day, is not as mobile as he once was. And that's the same thing with Ben. Ben Roethlisberger used to run a lot when he was first drafted. I mean, people tend to often forget that because they think of the 2010s Ben, because that was the most relevant era. But like when Ben was young, he would run. I mean, he didn't run a lot. He wasn't a scrambling quarterback, but he did run a lot, and he would take off and get 20-yard runs. And you're like, oh wow, good job, Ben. And the thing with Justin Fields is they can utilize him in that run offense that Arthur Smith likes to run with. Oh yeah, you have a running quarterback. You might as well utilize him if Najee Harris cannot run up the middle. So Russell Wilson, on the other hand, also it gets rid of that entire threat of running, in my opinion. I think he gets rid of that entire threat. I mean, he will still possibly scramble, but he's probably not going to be as scary mobile as like a Justin Fields would be. And I mean, he might have a better arm. He might have the better awareness. But, I mean, we've watched some of those. We've talked about these seasons over the couple of years that we've done the show, and we've talked about how mid, I guess is the right word, that Russell Wilson has looked in Denver. And this is a different team. It's Pittsburgh. Denver had a lot of issues at the time, but you still have to sometimes question it. Russell Wilson's old. I mean, he still has a nagging injury. Like, is this like, would it even benefit the team to put him in at this point? I don't. I think at this point you kind of already have a future with Justin Fields. You might as well utilize what you have when Russell Wilson's probably only going to be around for a couple more years.
I agree. And just before we head out, Derek Carr has been placed, well, not on IR, but he is out indefinitely. Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders, has been placed on IR. So just some quick injury updates for you. Thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Butts Show. Our social media pages are NoButts_show on Instagram and No Butts Show on TikTok. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. And if you would like to reach us, you can email us at bullmoosepodcast2. That's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our spread shop will be in the description, so check out the merch. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, go do something nice for someone.